So we are joined by Matt D'Onofrio, the president of Atlantic County Utilities Authority today, who's got a lot of interesting projects going on in his organization. So we're going to hear from him, and we'll take some time for a little Q&A after the fact. I will request that everyone uses the raise your hand feature when we get to that point, so we can call on you. Alternately, feel free to send messages through the chat as his presentation's ongoing, and we'll make sure they get answered. Next, we're going to hear from our co-chair, Chris Daly. Chris is the SNJDC representative on the DEP's Site Remediation and Redevelopment Program Advisory Group. And so he's made us aware of some rather important updates and changes to rules and regulations. And so he wanted to provide an overview to everyone today as well. And then lastly, as most of you know, our committees, we encourage all of our committees to feature one revenue generating event per year. So last year, this committee hosted DEP Commissioner Sean LaTourette, which was a really great event. And given the amount of subject matter and everything that's happening in kind of the clean energy space, in discussions with our co-chairs towards the end of last year and also early this year, we thought it was probably a good opportunity to convene something a little bit bigger and broader. And so we're looking at putting together a more of a energy conference, clean energy conference, and also seek some volunteers to work on a planning committee so we can really fully formulate this thing. But you'll hear more about that later. So with that, we can just move right over to our guest speaker today, Matt D'Onofrio, who is the president of the Atlantic County Utilities Authority, where he leads a team of more than 300 employees in providing environmentally and economically responsible waste management services across ACUA's wastewater and solid waste divisions. This includes a 40 million gallon per day wastewater treatment facility and a regional sewage collection system serving 14 municipalities, as well as a state-of-the-art solid waste and recycling environmental park that serves all 23 municipalities in Atlantic County in a regional collection fleet. So with that, Matt, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Ben, for that introduction. You actually stole I think my first slide. Let me just share my screen with the presentation we have here. All right, everybody can see my screen, right? Just need to put a slideshow. All right. So Ben, thank you for for having me this morning. And as Ben had introduced, I'm the president here at the Atlantic County Utilities Authority. A fairly new position for me. So our previous president, which many of you may have known, Rick Dovey, retired at the end of June last year after a quite a career of 33 years and leaving some very big shoes to fill. So I'm going to do my best, but I'm not new to the organization. I've been here for almost 17 years now. So worked through engineering, I'm an engineer by trade, and then worked through some other departments in maintenance and research and development. So I have a pretty good background, in the organization in all facets. So as Ben had kind of explained, if you don't know who the Atlantic County Utilities Authority are, we're a regional utility authority that manages the solid waste and wastewater for Atlantic County. Some of the services that we provide, our treatment plant, most recognizable is where the windmills are there outside of Atlantic City, is a 40 million gallon per day wastewater treatment facility where we service 14 municipalities in Atlantic County. And then we also operate a 365 acre environmental park, which is just off the runway path of Atlantic City International in Egg Harbor Township, where we have a 102 acre landfill site, transfer station, recycling center, compost facility, and a vehicle maintenance center. And then with these kind of core functions of wastewater as well as solid waste management, we offer several different shared services to municipalities in the county, as well as some other counties. Cumberland County, we do some shared services for trash and recycling collection, and one of the municipalities, Woodbine and Cape May, we also do some recycling collection. And on the wastewater side, we do as well as some shared services for pump station maintenance and lab services. So it's a kind of plethora of shared services we offer and everything kind of in between. So I'm here to kind of really to talk about some of the current projects that we have that we've developed over the last almost 20 years now, and then also talk a little bit about some of the things that are in the pipeline that'll kind of keep us moving forward. So our organization has always been known in the industry for wastewater and solid waste as being innovative, and one of those first projects that's most obvious is those 5 windmills in Atlantic City. The windmills were installed in 2005, so we're coming up to about 18 years, 19 years of them in operation. There's 5 of them. They're 1.5 megawatt turbines, and they produce 7.5 megawatts on site when they're spinning. Our facility requires about 2 megawatts of power. The additional is sold to the grid. This was done through a private-public partnership, so we're a big fan of bringing the private industry in to help government organizations to get some of these projects done, the funding, the operational side of things, and just kind of pushing ahead to innovate. We really value those, and that's where you'll see a very common theme in some of these projects that we do is a lot of private-public partnerships. So we don't actually own the windmills. We lease the property and we buy the electricity. We've had a flat rate for electricity for the past 19 years now. We're coming to the end of our 20-year contract and working with Leeward Energy, which actually owns the windmills, in extending that contract for another 10 to 15 years. So there's still plenty of life in these windmills. It was a mix, again, of private funding and also some grant funding from BPU and Atlantic City Electric to help us get these. And they've saved us a little over $7 million in the course of that span of 18, 19 years. The next project, also located on our wastewater treatment facility, is our solar project. It's a 500 kilowatt solar array. I actually just learned this year, so I've been here again, about 16, 17 years now, and just learned we have a parking lot canopy, and they just seem so prevalent everywhere. Solar is on parking lot canopies everywhere. But in New Jersey, when we installed this in 2005 or 2006, it was the first parking lot canopy that was built to house solar in the state, and now it's just a common thing that you see everywhere. So I thought that was kind of interesting to see. But we purchased these solar panels, so these were owned by us. They only provide about 4% of our power. Again, we're pretty energy intense process when it comes to the treatment of wastewater. And then we saw some significant rebates, especially back in 2005 for solar, and saw savings of over $4 million on energy since then. So again, these projects have a reoccurring theme of not just being green and reducing CO2 emissions and having a positive impact on the environment, but they're also having a positive impact on the rate base that we have, because they're cost saving measures or revenue generating projects that we do. So we always try to make sure that they align in both of those areas when we're looking at new projects. This one is a little bit under the radar. This is a 1 megawatt battery that's on our treatment plant facility. Again, another private-public partnership. This is more of a demonstration. So when everybody thinks of like a 1 megawatt battery, they think of like battery backup and storage. And this is actually there's a whole bunch of different regulatory markets that you can participate in. And this company, Verity Energy, came in and is working in the frequency, cleaning up frequency, and there's a value to that. So they've installed this 1 megawatt battery on our site, and they're able to kind of clean up the frequency of the wind. I don't think it's the wind, but I think it's the grid power. But that's kind of the concept of what this battery project is. So again, a lot of people get confused even in-house on that it's a backup, but it's not really a backup. It's providing again cleaner energy to the grid. Landfill gas. So moving on to our solid waste site. So in 2005, we installed with a partnership, private-public partnership with South Jersey Industries, taking our landfill gas, collecting it, and instead of flaring it, which converts it from a methane to a CO2, which is a less harmful greenhouse gas, we did a little bit of treatment and we were running it through engines. At the peak, we had 3 engines running at about 5.4 megawatts of power. Again, private-public partnership. South Jersey Industries came in, invested the money, installed these things. There was some grant funding available, And we saw a revenue side. So where there was a revenue share in this contract as well as a electricity supply. So it was again a benefit to us in one, using something that wasn't being used as far as our net landfill gas, but also generating revenue and reducing some of our costs, which ultimately goes down to what our rates are going to be. So this project operated from 2005 to 2021. The landfill gas can be a very tough gas to run through generators, and over time, those generators kind of wore down, and the cost to keep them operational became cost prohibitive. So we started the transition, and there's a new project that I'll kind of get to that is replacing this. So in 2021, at the end of the year, we actually shut these down and started to work towards the next project that we'll be having on site here, which will have a very similar impact to our organization. Compressed natural gas. So in 2012, we started evaluating converting our diesel trucks over to natural gas. And we started to do that. And today we have about 99% of our collection fleet moved to compressed natural gas. It's a third of the reduction. It's a third of the emissions in comparison to diesel. We don't have to deal with diesel particulate filters. There's a little increase in cost as far as the truck's concerned. However, you see the savings on the back end. So the fueling of these things, right now we're paying about $1 equivalent, diesel equivalent gallon. So diesel's at $3.50 right now. We're paying $1 a gallon for these trucks, and the emissions are a third of what they would be from a diesel truck. So it was a really great project, and has really helped us. Again, it's all about keeping rates and ratepayers and taxpayers' dollars down. So this has helped us kind of stabilize everything. We also have natural gas rates that are fixed for us. We bid those out every 3 years. So when it comes to planning for a public agency, we don't have as much volatility when it comes to gasoline and diesel prices, because we have a fixed rate, so we're able to really lock in what those prices are. We also built a natural gas fueling station just outside of our park, and it's open to the public. So we get a lot of other haulers that come in, Waste Management, Earth Tech, the jitneys come in. They have their own station, but they also use ours as well. And there was some grant funding that we were able to secure through the Department of Energy. And then as far as just, overall electric fleet and, plugins, we've really been just kind of testing the waters with a lot of different things. So we do have some full EV, smaller vehicles, a lot of plug-in hybrids, which really, have kind of a little bit of the best of both worlds. You're able to kind of alleviate that range anxiety, but at the same time, your local runs are really running under electric vehicles. The heavy duty trucks, there's a lot of push forward, like our trash trucks converting over to EV. We did get a grant from the DEP, but the cost of these things right now skyrocketed. So we had a grant for about $450,000 to offset the cost of an EV truck. And from the time we got contracts signed and everything kind of moving forward, the cost went up $200,000. So we're talking, $500,000 for a truck that we had to really kind of prove out the concept. And just right now, it didn't make sense for us. So we kind of held back on that, but we're pushing forward with smaller, we're looking at Ford Lightnings for a smaller fleet. Again, these have been proven out and really kind of work to our advantage. So again, always just trying to see where things are going and what makes sense for us, whether it's small vehicles or larger heavy duty trucks. So moving to our upcoming initiatives, again, on the same theme of the electric vehicles, we did get a grant for some DC fast chargers, and that was done through the BPU's electric tourism grant program. And there's not that many of those around here, but we'll be able to get some pretty. This will actually come out right outside of our treatment facility, so right outside of Atlantic City. So if you hit that roulette table on your lunch break and you need to charge your vehicle, there's a little parking lot outside of our facility with a kiosk that has kind of a bunch of facts and factual information on the wind farm and also the treatment facility. We'll be installing 2 dual head DC fast chargers at that site, and you'll be able to get about an 80% charge within 15 to 20 minutes, depending on your manufacturer's vehicles. So this is really kind of the next step in some of these, again, smaller, lighter duty vehicles, and being able to get that charge, as we've all gotten used to kind of going to the gas station, spending about 10 minutes there, getting it filled up, and then kind of going on our way. So this was a grant that we got through BPU, and that'll go into construction this year and should be online before the end of the year. Another pretty interesting project that we're working towards is green hydrogen. So creating a green hydrogen facility at our treatment plant. And this is being funded or partially funded through the Department of Energy through an earmark grant from Senator Booker. We got $3.8 million through the Clean Cities Coalition, and we're working with South Jersey Industries as well as GE to take that wind energy, have that run the electrolyzer. And what's a little bit different about our site is we're trying to also use the wastewater effluent. So that really hasn't been done before. You know, you're always pulling virgin water, but we thought, hey, we have this clean water that's being discharged to the ocean. Why don't we use that to, run through this electrolyzer and create that hydrogen? So we're in the development stages of that. Again, a very small pilot kind of project, proof of concept. And then the other portion that's a little bit unique, that's a little bit trickier, is the oxygen. So in typical electrolyzers, so electrolyzers are not new technology, but the cost of them is pretty high to run these things. So getting that cost down for green hydrogen, but typically an electrolyzer, they split the water into hydrogen and oxygen, and the oxygen is pure oxygen is typically just flared off, and they just pull the hydrogen. Our treatment facility also has a need for oxygen because most of wastewater treatment is based around biological treatment and oxygen demand. So the thought is to try to implement that pure oxygen into our wastewater process to, again, reduce maybe the load on a blower or an aerator process. So a little bit trickier to use that, but we're, again, trying to figure out if we can kind of proof that out to see if it works for us. So it's a pretty interesting project that we're excited about because, again, it just is kind of continuing to push the envelope a little bit with where we're headed with, things like green hydrogen. And we have a unique site that allows us to do that. You can't just do that anywhere. Renewable natural gas. So I mentioned the landfill gas to electricity generators that we had shut down in 2021. We're moving this site over to a renewable natural gas site. So all landfills create and produce gas, and you have to do something with it. The utopic is, have zero waste and not have trash, but we're far from any kind of zero waste, culture or type of process. So we're going to have this gas for a while, and our landfill has been operating for 33 years, and that gas will continue to produce, or that waste will continue to produce gas for about 30 years plus. So we have this gas is going to be produced. It makes sense for us. We're running actually CNG, natural gas trucks. So there's a lot of incentives and a lot of value in creating this natural gas on site. So again, private-public partnership with South Jersey Industries, as well as another company called Opal Fuels, which is a public national company, is coming in investing $40 million into our site, and we'll be cleaning up our landfill gas and creating natural gas and directly injecting it into the pipeline at our site. So we'll be reducing our emissions on site by up to 95%. So right now, this landfill gas, which is about 2,500 SCFM, at our, producing right now, is being converted to CO2 through a flare. So we're burning it on site. That flare will not have to operate once we start injecting it into the landfill. So, pretty significant project for us. It'll also generate revenue for us as well. There's a revenue share there. Again, goal is to try to keep our rates as low as possible, and this is kind of how we do that. So reduction on emissions, as well as a increase in revenue that we see on the other side. So again, a win-win for us. And then our last project that we're working on that we're really excited about is, we talked about landfills and producing gas. And since I've been with this organization, we have been chasing technology to find better solutions for disposing of our waste. It's a great feeling when you put your trash at the end of the driveway and it completely disappears and you don't have to think twice about it. But when you live it and breathe it every single day and you see, the trash being buried into a very sophisticated landfill, however, you're still burying it in the ground and taking up a valuable resource. You got to think there's got to be a better way to do things. And, fortunately, the U.S. is a bit land rich when it comes to being able to, dispose of waste. But we've really been chasing alternative waste technologies for a while. And we're actually in a process right now to procure something here on site in Atlantic County. So we've gone through what's called the McEnroe Act. which allows us to, again, contract with through a private-public partnership with a company. So we've gone through what's called the RFQ process, which is a request for qualifications, casting a big net nationwide for any companies that have some kind of technology that work through managing municipal waste. And we are able to shortlist it down. So we got a whole bunch of applications and qualifications that came in October, and we shortlisted that to 3 vendors. And now we're developing an RFP, which is a request for proposals, and we only are releasing it to those 3. And that's what the McEnroe Act allows us to do, along with signing a longer-term 25-year contract with a vendor. Because if you're going to invest, these projects are, upward of $150 million to $250 million for these types of projects. So if you're a vendor, you want a long-term contract. You don't want a 5-year. You can't amortize that over 5 years. So we're in the first part of that. We have 3 vendors that we've shortlisted. We're working on an RFP. And one of the big things that's changed, we've been researching this for, the better part of 15, 16 years, is there's been a kind of a shift in how we're processing some of this waste. And there's plants that have come online or that are broken ground throughout the country that may help us sort our existing waste. It's no secret that the U.S. is not very good at recycling. We do an okay job at it, but there's a lot of recycling that's still left in our trash. So a lot of these new processes that are coming in are working on the front end, pulling out the recyclables from your trash, pulling out organics and putting those into a digester and creating a revenue stream through another, again, source of RNG. We'll have infrastructure here already. So again, we have a bit of a unique site. So again, a lot more focus on the front end processing, whereas from my experience, we haven't seen that. A lot of people just wanted to kind of throw trash through this black box technology and have rainbows and sunshine come out the other end and not think about the front end processing of it. So there seems to be quite a shift in that realm. So we're really excited about this one as well. It also expands the life and capacity of our site here to dispose of waste in Atlantic County. And I think that's it. I tried to go through it all quickly because I know we didn't have a lot of time, and I wanted to kind of leave some time for questions. So, thank you. If you guys have questions, feel free to use the reactions button, or I'll let Ben kind of manage that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matt. I really appreciate that. Thorough presentation. Yeah, if you have any questions, raise your hand or send them in the chat. Tim Mangold, see you have a hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Matt. Thanks for the presentation. And I had a question regarding biosolids management, which at least the last time I toured the plant, you guys ran it up through a cooker, I'll call it. But has that had evaluation for past or ongoing PFAS loads within your biosolids? Learning that that's a thing.
Yeah, so that's a pretty hot topic. So we incinerate our biosolids. We're one of 5 entities in New Jersey that still incinerate. And on the regulatory side, especially on the EPA level, incineration doesn't seem to be something that they're in favorable of. But there's only a couple of ways that you can really dispose of biosolids, and that's the solids material that comes out of your wastewater. But PFAS are a hot topic right now, and there's only a couple of ways to really destroy PFAS, and one of them happens to be through incineration. High temperatures over, I think it's 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. So we have been kind of tracking a little bit of our biosolids that what's the PFAS level in the wastewater and where is it kind of dropping out. We haven't done anything on our physical sludge yet, but I think we have something planned this year for some of that testing to see. The challenge is always too is, as a public agency, you always want to go over and above and try to determine what's in your stuff, what's in your wastewater, what's in your biosolids. But then there's always the concern of, well, if I tell you what's in it, are you going to start regulating on what's in it, even though it's not regulated now for us. But there seems to be a consensus in the industry we need to really make sure, one, we're passive receivers. So we're not creating this material, we are receiving it at the end. So we're really pushing for industry to, obviously take it out of where the generation is. And that's the same thing on the landfill too. We're passive receivers. So for us to have to incur the cost to treat it doesn't seem to be fair when the manufacturers are the one that are kind of generating it. So in my long-winded point, yes, we are looking into, how does the incinerator destruct or completely eliminate the PFAS in our system? Like I said, we've been testing through wastewater and seeing that the wastewater we discharge, the PFAS level is significantly lower. So we know that it's dropping out in the process, more than likely through our biosolids. And the next step right now is to really test our biosolids and then the ash residual at the end to see, if there's a reduction and if it is destroyed through our process. Good question.
Great, thank you. Any others? Well, seeing like everyone is okay for right now. Matt did say he would try and stick around for a little while in this meeting. So, if you think of any, feel free to send a chat at any point and we can certainly revisit. But thank you very much, Matt. I really appreciate you joining us today and giving that great thorough presentation. We will send around the slides to everyone on the committee as well. So they're able to review, and those who aren't here can review it as well.
Great. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ben, for the opportunity.
All right. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris Daly.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Good morning. Just wanted to give an update from the DEP that I received at the Site Remediation Advisory Group. So the SRAG meetings are held roughly quarterly. Usually they have 3 or 4 every year. And last summer, I was appointed as a representative for the Southern New Jersey Development Council. So the first thing I want to put out there is, the meetings are to identify issues within the regulated community, that we could have an open discussion with the DEP on, as well as any updates from the DEP themselves. So, the next meeting's in June, but if anybody has any specific site remediation related issues or topics that they would like some feedback from the DEP on, please get with me before the next meeting, and I'd be happy to include it in the agenda and try to get some response or clarification from the DEP. So that's kind of what the group is for. Although it's kind of gotten quite big over the years, probably about 50 people that attend, and I'm sure some people on this call probably have been on it as well. So going through what some of the information that they provided, I think one of the biggest things, and they didn't actually provide any type of organization chart, but David Haynes briefed the group on the reorganization of the DEP. So the DEP is actually, reorganizing. They're going to create a new division, and all of basically the site remediation oversight is going to be under that, including Bureau of Inspection Review, permitting. That's all going to get reorganized. Gwen Zervis, who has been managing that group, is not going to stay in that group. She's moving over to publicly funded. So they've had a open requisition for the position, and I guess there's been a lot of speculation as far as who may take over. And so far, we haven't gotten any feedback on who that may actually be. But the change is, it could, depending on who becomes the new director, it's a director's position. That could have impact to basically all of us who are doing site remediation. So that was probably the first big news. And then I do have a few slides. I did some screenshots during the presentation that I can share with you here. Hold on. All right. So like I said, I pulled up some slides just to hit on some of the higher topics that were discussed. The meeting lasted a couple hours. I'm just trying to pull in a few of the bigger things. I think a lot of people know that there's a new program for remedial action permitting now. They're allowing LSRPs to certify permit applications so the DEP can issue permits. Part of this is in response to the backlog that the DEP has for remedial action permits. They just issued the new form and guidance, you know, in January, and now they're starting to trickle in some certifications, but from what I understand, they've only received a handful so far. So the program's hasn't taken off, and right now it only includes soil permits. So if you need a deed restriction and a cap, and you're looking for a certification to get a remedial action permit, so an LSRP can issue a response action outcome, then you would, you know, you can self-certify it. But so far, response has been somewhat limited, and they're working on a separate certification right now for groundwater. So that should be coming out soon as well. And there's you know, we spent a lot of time regarding the you know, I guess how these permits have been going. I know I've had the pleasure of negotiating a few permits with the DEP, and they tend to become pretty protracted and a lot of back and forth. But the DEP has basically, you know, has a new policy in place that there's a 60-day cutoff. So, you know, the back and forth that I've done on some other sites that have, you know, gone on for you know, months, is no longer going to be allowed. Basically, the 60 days is a hard deadline, and at the end of the 60 days, you know, it doesn't really matter if you've been able to resolve any differences with the DEP or not. At that time, you know, the LSRP would have to withdraw the permit, or it will get denied. So, you know, I guess what the advice out there is for these permit reviews, number one is try to respond as quickly as possible once you get a notice of a violation, a NOI, because, you know, the clock's ticking. So the quicker you can get your response into the DEP and get a response from them, it seems like, you know, we really kind of shortened the time frame for that. So, and then the other thing is, if there's data missing, a lot of the comments that have been coming back are related to delineation, you know, soil and or groundwater delineation. So if there is a question and there's data that's missing, and it doesn't look like you're going to be able to resolve it directly just through negotiations with the DEP, you have to get out there quickly to collect any samples. Originally, it was 30 days. They did bump it to 60 days, which does give you enough time to collect some data, but not much. And it's a kind of a hard deadline. So so that's something to consider as well. And this is right. Okay, I think I hit most of this. You know, they are opening up the technical review panel again, and there's a website here that actually lays out what the process is, and it's for disagreements between LSRPs and the technical staff. You know, they still want you know, LSRPs, responsible parties, to raise issues through the permit reviewer and their supervisor and the bureau chief. But once you get to that level, if you're not able to resolve a technical issue, you can request to convene a technical review panel that would be people that are outside that review process that have some technical you know, expertise in the area that you have a dispute on. And there's an actual process now for requesting that on the website, and it talks about you know, what will not be covered. So it's, you know, it's not for matters of, you know, legal issues, and it's not for sites that have direct oversight. But if there are technical issues, you can request the panel, and there's a process, you know, where you can actually go in and do that, and it goes in writing to the assistant commissioner's office. Let's see, a few other things that I was going to hit on. We could stop share here. there's new standards for the groundwater quality standards were published in the New Jersey Register back in the beginning of January. And for groundwater, and there's some significant changes. And one of the ones that I've been hit with is a proposed change for vinyl chloride. It's going down from 1 to 0.035, so almost 2 orders of magnitude. So that's created a lot of I guess concern among LSRPs and the regulated community. There's a lot of sites that have vinyl chloride where they thought they were delineated and they thought remediation was complete, and now if these regulations get promulgated, they will not. One of the things, and they just actually made this announcement this week, is they had only allowed for a 60-day review period. So there was a lot of groups that were scrambling to to provide feedback to the DEP on the proposed rule. Since they've granted a 30-day extension now till April. But some of the changes, like I said, the one for vinyl chloride specifically, there's concern that a lot of the labs can't meet the new deadline. I mean, they base it on the PQL, so it's physically possible to meet the new detection limit, but they may require labs to purchase new equipment and go through new certifications and things that would take a lot of time. So that's kind of a work in progress. And then also there's a lot of sites that have been relying on old data that didn't hit those detection limits historically. And so now, a lot of the data that's been gathered for sites that had chlorinated solvents releases, is no longer, meeting the new proposed standard. So, still have some time before the standard actually goes into effect, but because it's more than an order of magnitude, you had to do an order of magnitude evaluation for any site that goes through permit process or anything. So even if you thought you were done, you're not necessarily done. So that was kind of a big topic issue, as well as there's new standards being proposed. They haven't been published yet in New Jersey, but the EPA standard is being promulgated. So New Jersey's going to follow suit probably this summer for PFAS. So be on the lookout for that. And recently there was also new regulations published for PCB contamination. So that was published in the Federal Register, and that also is basically I don't do a lot of PCB work, but it does have some significant changes. So if you do, you should probably take a look at that. So I think that's mostly what I wanted to cover as far as updates go on the SRAG. I'll open it up for questions if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask or comments. All right. So I guess I'll remind everyone that this is kind of an avenue that the Development Council can use if you do have issues related to site remediation. So I'm available to bring up topics at the next meeting in June, and I think there's another one in the fall. So if anybody does have anything, please feel free to reach out to me, and I can help try to get some clarification or a response from the DEP on those issues. All right.
And Chris, if you could send over to our office a copy of those slides, if you wouldn't mind, and then we can package it together with Matt's and send it out to everyone so everyone can review.
Yeah, I don't really have the slides itself. I just kind of did some screenshots. So I mean, I could send over what I have, but it's mostly just some screenshots from
works.
the DEP's presentation. So, but but yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, the
well,
last,
thanks, Chris. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if we want to get into the last issue. You know, we were going to talk about the planning for the Clean Energy Conference. So, you know, as Ben said, we're looking at you know, setting up a planning committee. You know, Matt did a great job of you know, explaining some of the success that the Atlantic County Utility Authority has had with their clean energy program. So you know, it's alive and well in South Jersey, and you know, even though the offshore wind has kind of taken a little bit of a pause, there's still a lot going on with clean energy, and we were looking to, you know, develop a committee to you know, start talking about some of the topics and who we can invite to present. We do have title sponsor New Jersey American Water has agreed to sponsor the event. We're looking to, you know, expand a little bit from the event we had last year. So you know, I guess it could open that up for discussion, you know, among my co-chairs and other members of the group, just for ideas. And again, we're looking for volunteers to help us in the planning process and come up with a good program, good solid program. I mean, there's some ideas we've talked between the co-chairs, you know, trying to look at obviously, you know, offshore wind, green hydrogen, the hydrogen hub, which is coming to you know, Pennsylvania and South Jersey. You know, looking at, I know there was some discussion in this group about, you know, nuclear and how that fits into the program, and also, you know, renewable natural gas, and even on one of the calls here, we talked about, you know, EVs and how EVs are affecting, you know, electrical transmission and distribution in the state, and especially in South Jersey. So a lot of kind of just feeder topics out there, but we want to get a program together that, you know, kind of focuses on a portion of that, and we could get a couple panels together to discuss. So I'll throw that out there, and I'll stop talking.
Hey, Chris, it's Bob. Thanks for that review of the status of the site remediation program, and thanks to Matt for his overview of what ACUA is doing. And I don't know, there he is. Hey, Matt. I thought Matt's presentation was awesome. It sounds like ACUA is really a leader in renewable energy and efficiencies, and they're still forward looking. I think it'd be awesome if we could. I don't know if it's an imposition. Now you're pretty high up the ladder now, Matt. You got a lot of things to do, but if you had any time to participate in the Clean Energy Conference, I think it would be pretty cool to have you. You're really putting in action so many different elements of renewable energy already, and it looks like you're still continuously looking forward to develop more ways to do that. So that could be exciting to have you as part of that program if you might be up for it. If I'm not getting out over my skis or anything.
No, not at all. I'd be happy to help out or participate in any way you guys need a hand with. So
there was one other thing that we had kicked around another time among the committee co-chairs and with Ben as well. It was a good discussion about the different you know, approaches that the state is taking, and I think there's a serious discussion to be had about the viability of the current state energy you know, master plan, whether those deadlines are achievable and how we're getting there. I find it interesting to look at what's happening at the state level and statewide. I've done some work on floating solar down in South Jersey. I don't know if that's becoming more of a viable option anywhere else throughout the state. And working with some car dealerships, I think you're going to see moving forward transition from the EVs to different types of vehicles that utilize more of the you know, hydrogen cells and things like that. It's not here today, but I think it's interesting to see how we might plan for that. And might be good, another good topic to talk about. But if anybody else things out there, we could the committee chairs can chase down any other topics that people might want to suggest, and we could see if we can include some discussion at the Clean Energy Conference.
Mike Hutchinson, FSG, how you doing? Thanks for having me. The only other thing I can think of is the incentive money, or how the Board of Public Utilities and the different utility companies, they're coming up on their second triennial. They're announcing July 1st. Well, they say they're announcing July 1st for new incentive programs for both energy production and energy efficiency measures. So just the different programs they have for giving out money.
Okay, so status of various incentives.
Yeah, and that's they're about to complete their first triennial. They extended it to January, but July 1st, the utility companies should be coming out with their whatever their new caps, incentive plans, whatever that is. And that's kind of where I make my bones as it is.
Sure,
So,
it's a good suggestion, Mike. We'll incorporate that. Thank you.
Yeah, Greg Reiner is on this committee. He couldn't unfortunately make this meeting today, but we can reach out to him to see if he can at least, you know, participate in our planning committee as well, because he's the perfect resource for exactly what Mike's referring to. So thank you. Yeah. And I would add, anyone else, you know, you don't have to volunteer right now on the spot. You know, we've had some pretty good success with our planning committees putting together events for this committee as well. Over the past several years, we've held you know, webinars and programs on things like the environmental justice update law and on PFAS. And a few years ago, most of you will remember, we held a 2-day virtual conference. This was during the peak of COVID times on New Jersey's clean energy future. So and our planning committees and the support from those members really helped to drive the success of that by, you know, breaking down into some specific details, you know, the types of topics and the types of speakers that are appropriate to kind of put together. So, you know, feel free to reach out to us. We'll send around a recap after this meeting with slides and whatnot. And we're looking for maybe about 6 or 7 volunteers. We have a few already on top of, you know, our office, obviously, and the co-chairs. So yeah, please do consider it. We'll try not to take up too much of your time. They won't be, you know, constant meetings and whatnot, but you know, maybe one every couple of weeks until we really hammer this thing out, and then we can revisit with the full committee.
Sounds good, Ben.
All right, so with that, if there aren't any other questions for our co-chairs, for Matt, or for Chris for his presentation, I think we can wrap up our committee meeting today. I do want to bring to everyone's attention that we do have our next scheduled event is going to be a Meet the Legislators featuring the newly elected senators and assembly folks from the 3rd and 4th district, and we're going to be holding that on Friday, March 22nd at Rowan College of South Jersey in Sewell. And I believe we sent out an invitation early this morning. So if you're interested, it should be a really great event. We do this annually with the 1st and 2nd district down at Atlantic Cape Community College every year, and it's a great way to, you know, kind of hear from our newly elected leaders on their policy priorities and plans. Especially interested in the 3rd district as that you know, completely flipped from the previous years. So keep an eye on that and sign up. And we'll send around a recap to everyone for this meeting, and we look forward to engaging with you on our planning committee. So with that, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Chris, Bob, and Jean, and everyone, and have a great weekend.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Ben.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Have a nice weekend.